Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Here are the stories of the people who are changing our world by transitioning to a plant-based diet. Today on Plant Your Seed, joining us from Connecticut, we have Britt Bosse. Britt is a fine arts animal photographer and animal rights advocate. She photographs both rescued animals and wildlife with a mission to raise awareness for the ways in which humans have a negative impact on animals and how we can create positive change. Welcome, Britt.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being on
Good.
Plant Your Seed.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for asking me to come on. I really appreciate it. I'm honored.
First of all, I absolutely love your images. And I love the style and the way that you captured the true essence of the animals. How did you get started as an animal photographer?
Thank you so much for those compliments. I really appreciate that. That's really kind of you to say. So how did I get started? In terms of photography, I first picked up a camera. It'll actually be 10 years ago this year. But when I first started in photography, I was just photographing pretty much anything. Like I've photographed like every genre of photography in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started photographing a lot. I really got into it. It became a huge passion. And then that was 2012. And then in 2015, that was when I went vegan. And at the time, within like that year after, I was like in a period in my life where I didn't really have a lot of friends, which in a way was kind of okay because I'm really like introverted anyway, so I don't need to socialize all the time. But this is like one of those things where it started to bother me. You know, I'd be at home kind of wanting some interaction with friends and things like that. So I decided that I was going to just go out and make some friends. And I wanted to make some friends that were also vegan because I had gotten like into this period in my life. And like, as you know, it really like, it can like change you and give you a different mindset. And so I wanted to seek out like some vegan friends. So I joined this group on Facebook that was like the Connecticut Vegan Social Club. And so I joined that and I just started like going to some events and meeting people. And some of it was just hanging out. Some of it was like activism events and things. And through that, I got involved with doing some things with the Connecticut Vegan Lady Gang, which I don't even know if that's still going on, but at the time it was. And we had this one event that was, we volunteered at Woodstock Animal Sanctuary, Farm Animal Sanctuary. And so we had like that whole day, and it was like a really amazing day. And I left feeling so fulfilled, and I wanted to do that more. So I started volunteering like occasionally at some other animal sanctuaries. And through that, I don't even honestly know how it came about, but through that, I started like photographing some of the animals. And that's kind of just how that got started. And I was in school for a period of time, like 4 years. And then right when it turned 2020, I had just finished school. And so I had some more time on my hands, and I was doing some photography at the Riley Farm Rescue. And that's when it really became clear to me that this was something that I was going to do. Like, this was my path in life, or at least one of them, like photographing animals at sanctuaries and like trying to use the photos to advocate for them. Like, that's when it really like hit and became apparent that like this is the path that I was meant to take right now. And I just kind of like took off with that. So yeah, that was kind of a lengthy explanation, but that's kind of how that got started, or exactly how, I guess.
Now, how do you feel your photography impacts the environment?
That's a tough one. Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, like how do you feel that your images portray a message to people that then translates to people's awareness of the environment?
I feel like, I mean, I don't know exactly how people feel, you know, about my, like what they take away from my images. Sometimes I get an idea, you know, when people give me feedback, but like my hope is that people see the images and make a connection to the animal and like feel some sort of compassion for the animal and see them as an individual. Like, that's what I want most, is for people to see them as an individual. And then, like, with that, trying to share information of how we impact them and how that also actually impacts the environment itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we know, animal agriculture is one of the leading causes of climate change and deforestation and et cetera, and all of that, biodiversity loss. And so I think it's more of a chain reaction, like one thing triggers another thing. And I hope that it creates some awareness. I mean, that's my goal.
A glance in flight and I am Blackberry are my personal favorite images of yours.
Oh.
What would you say your photographic style is?
Oh, that's a good question. Thank you, by the way. Those are two of my favorites. I like those images. My photographic style, I get that question a lot, actually, and I have a hard time really explaining it. But in terms of my photographic style, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of bold.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the correct descriptor, but I really like to have a lot of contrast and pop in my images, and I do like to have a lot of color. It's really hard to explain. A lot of people will say to me that my images are like soft, but like contrasty.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I would say, like, in my view, I would just say bold. I don't know. That's how I would refer to it.
I love it because it's like they're just so in your face and dark and powerful.
Thank you.
Like, I am Blackberry, right? Blackberry was part of Mackenzie Sullivan's animal sanctuary. That image is just so amazing.
Thank you.
It's in the cold and she's staring at you and it's just right there. Like, how do you capture something like that?
Well, I'll just tell you the story, actually, of that image, if you'd like.
Yeah.
Because I remember taking that image very vividly. And so that was the first time I went to Ellie Mae. So I had never met the residents before, including Blackberry. And Blackberry, she was pretty standoffish. She was still a little bit nervous around people, especially people she didn't know. And so I was like giving her her space, and it was very early in the morning. It was probably like 6 a.m. or something. The sun was just peeking up, and it was definitely a very crisp morning. And she was just off in the distance looking at me, and I didn't try to approach her. And I just stayed where I was, and she was just standing there so beautifully, and she had her eyes like locked on me because I think she was trying to figure me out. Like, Who are you? Are you safe? I don't know who you are. And yeah, because of the cold, her breath was just like steaming out of her mouth and her nose. And that's how I got that shot. And I still remember getting the shot, actually, and looking at the back of my camera and thinking, oh, this is so cool, the way like her breath was coming out and everything. And I feel like I look at that photo and I don't know, for me, like, I can really just remember who she was. I didn't get to know her super well. I only met her on 2 occasions, but she definitely had this presence, this very like calm and warm, non-aggressive presence, but also just standoffish and like unsure. She was really a beautiful soul. I'm glad I have that image of her to remember her by.
Now, recently, an animal that you were close to, Peachy Girl from Road to Refuge Animal Sanctuary, passed. Could you explain how that has impacted you?
Yeah, sorry, I just need a moment.
It's okay.
It's still pretty fresh, so it's tough. I mean, I go to these sanctuaries and I photograph these animals, and I don't spend as much time with them as, obviously the people who run the sanctuaries, the founders, the volunteers, but, I get to know them, and then, sometimes they pass away, and it's sad, and I do cry for each of them, but, she was a tough one. I met her when she was just a tiny little baby. She was like 2 weeks old, and she couldn't walk or anything, or stand. If you know her story at all, that's, she was born very disabled. And so the first time I went to photograph her, the night before she had walked for the first time ever. And then when I went to photograph her the next day, I asked Megan, the founder, if I could take her and try to get her to walk on the mat. And she started walking all around, and she kept walking and like following me. And she just, it was just such a beautiful moment. Like, we were so excited, and she was like getting up and walking. And it was like that in itself was impacting for me, because I went to school for physical therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and I never ended up working in it. But like through my internships and everything, I got, the experience of working with people with physical therapy. And the thing that was amazing to me was that like Peachy didn't need any encouragement. Like, all she wanted was for you to scratch her chin when she got to you, for her to like have the motivation to get up and walk and like push through all of her struggles. So that was like, that just shows like part of her personality. And then so I only actually photographed her on 2 different occasions, but I started going there occasionally over the summer to like just assist with like her daily, like not daily, I did it on a weekly basis, but assist with the activities she would do on a daily basis, like getting in her cart and walking and, standing and things like that. So I spent a good deal of time with her doing that. And she was just really, really special in so many ways. It's hard to explain. And she went through so much, but she was given like the best life she could possibly get. And so it has definitely been impactful, and it's just really sad, it's sad when an animal like goes through so much, and like you get to know them, and then, unfortunately, she did have a happy ending in that she got rescued by the most amazing person, and she had a beautiful life. But unfortunately, like the hand that she was dealt coming into the universe just, was too much in the end. So, and it's hard too, because I feel sad for the loss, and then I also feel so much for like the founders of the sanctuaries when an animal passes, because I know like how close they were with them,
Mm-hmm.
and like how much like Peachy meant so much to Megan, the founder of Road to Refuge, and like it's unexplainable, and so yeah, there's just, I think about it a lot. It stays with me, like I've been thinking about Peachy every day since she passed, and I think about Megan, and it just stays with you for a little while, I think. Like I said, and I hate to even like sit here and like cry about it, because it's like what I'm feeling over it is nothing compared to like what Megan's feeling, or like a regular volunteer there, I'm sure, but I do mourn it. It is very sad.
Yeah, it is. Like you said, at least she had a great life while she was here.
Right.
And she
did.
She was loved.
She was so loved by people literally across the world,
Do you find yourself, situations like that, do you find yourself starting to shy away and do more wildlife stuff because of something like that? Or does that make you kind of dig your heels in and do more?
It's so interesting that you say that because I, you know, I feel like it's a mixture, but I do think that probably more often it makes me, at least for a period of time, want to shy away and do more wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to admit that because I feel that that seems weak. And but also I do tend to notice that like it's not permanent, but it's like I feel that I need to take some space and like just get out in the wild and be in nature. I feel like I do feel sad for wildlife sometimes. Well, I mean, I do all the time when I'm thinking about everything that they endure, but in terms of like the animals that I photograph, but it's easier to take in because, I haven't like interacted with them, spend time with them. I still feel for them, but, I'm not seeing all of their struggles. I'm not seeing everything that they've gone through, everything that they're going through, what's going to happen to them in the future. It's just like brief moments, and it's just very different. And I feel like photographing wildlife just takes me to like a very peaceful place because like I said, you're out in nature and it's quiet and you're just taking everything in. And like, maybe if you get lucky, you see something amazing that you are so honored to even see. But then other times I find myself wanting to dig in more, especially like, sometimes it'll be a situation like that where, an animal that I know has passed away, but a lot of times it'll be, I re-see footage of animal cruelty, of things that happen on factory farms, slaughterhouses, etc. And when I see that I really feel like I just get this fire lit and I want to like power forward and like just do more to advocate and photograph more farm animals and just try to, I don't know, get the message out there more.
So in a way, you would say that you would go out to nature in order to recharge, in order to come back and face it again.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it. I never really thought about it like that, but I do feel like I get recharged when I go out in nature. And with that, I also do when I photograph at sanctuaries too. Like some situations are tough, but most of the time it's just fun and enjoyable. Like who gets to hang out with baby goats all the time? Do you know what I mean? Like that's fun. Like
Yeah.
that's a recharge. Like and not just that. That was just an example, but I do often also feel that when I go to a sanctuary and photograph animals, that also recharges me. Like I can think of so many times where like I'm leaving a sanctuary after visiting and photographing, and I just feel amazing, definitely recharged. So I do think that they both recharge me, but yeah, at times wildlife just gives me the space that I need. Like I have mentioned to you, I am a very introverted person. So if I don't get enough space to myself, I start to feel like really stressed out and like overwhelmed. So that's one thing that like wildlife photography and getting out in nature provides for me, is space and quiet to like just sort of process and sit with things and recharge.
Do you have a favorite animal to capture?
Also funny that you asked that because I was actually just talking about this. I think it might have even been today. And I was saying that owls have become my favorite animal and like my favorite animal to photograph. I mean, we could split it up and say, oh, this is my favorite wildlife animal to photograph, or this is my favorite sanctuary animal. As a whole, I think it's because I had never seen an owl in the wild ever in my life until this past year. And so they still feel like, I don't know, they're just amazing creatures for one, but they also just feel like so magical to me. Because I spent my whole life like never seeing them, thinking like, where do they even exist? Are they out there? I say that as a joke, but every time I've seen one now, it just feels like magical. Like I feel like I'm seeing like the biggest celebrity on the planet. So yeah, I love owls and I love to photograph owls.
You give some of your proceeds to farm sanctuaries and also to Connecticut Votes for Animals. Why do you do that?
Well, I do it Because they need it. They're doing, like, all of those organizations, whether we're talking about Connecticut Votes for Animals or the sanctuaries, they're doing everything that they can to stand up for animals, to help animals, to save animals, give them a better life. And this is just one small thing that I can do to try to help. Like, I've had some people say to me, after I've had some certain print sales or whatever, oh, well, maybe you should have kept it for yourself. I know it sounds silly, but, people have said that, because I mean, I'm not well off. I've been pretty much broke my whole adulthood, but they need it.
Right.
Like, they really need it. Like, this is saving animals. This is helping animals. Okay, I have a place to live. I'm healthy. I don't need, you know what I mean? Like, they need it. So that's why I do it. And all of these sanctuaries are, like, the majority of them, like, everyone's volunteer. No one gets paid. I've also had people surprised that, like, I don't charge anything to the sanctuaries, like, when I'm photographing or anything. But, like, nobody makes money at the sanctuaries. Like, some of the sanctuaries, if they're big enough, have some paid employees, and they have to because they need people to care for the animals. But for the most part, like, everyone's doing it because they want to help animals, and this is what we're passionate about. And I feel like we're all in this together. Like, I don't feel like it's this one doing this and this one doing that. I feel like I just see it as, like, all of us vegans, all of us who care about animals and want to help animals, like, I feel like this is a group effort. And I don't know, I just want everyone to help each other, right? Because we're doing this for the animals. So, yeah, I guess the short answer would be because they need it. And why not?
What is it about animal photography that makes you so passionate?
Well, I guess the simple answer would be that two of my absolute favorite things in the world are animals and photography. So when you put those two things together, it's just like an explosion of passion. And to some degree, I don't even know if I can explain it. I just love it. Like, I have to be honest, like, I don't think anybody really knows this, but I think about animals and photography, like, almost all day, every day. Like, it's just constantly on my mind. It's just this, I don't know, this passion that kind of, like, just burns inside, like, I don't know. I love photography. I love taking images, and I love animals. And so to be able to capture, like, one of my favorite things with my camera, animals are just so beautiful, No offense to humans, but no human looks as good in a photograph as an animal does.
When you're just, like, I don't know, going out, picking up the mail, and you see a bird, in your brain, do you try to figure out the best angle or the best way that it would be to capture it?
Yeah, I think probably pretty much that's what I'm thinking all of the time when I see things. I guess to an extent it also depends on what kind of bird. If I see, like, a robin, like, I might think about it a little bit, but if I see, like, yesterday actually, I was about to leave work, and there was a hawk sitting in a tree right outside, and so I, like, literally rushed and grabbed my camera, set my camera up, and started taking photos because I can't let that moment pass me by, But it's the same. It was like, okay, the angle and the light, but yeah, if I'm walking, down a trail, and I'm always thinking about that, like, whenever I see an animal or anything, or even I could be driving.
Do you always carry your camera with you?
I try to as much as possible. Yeah. I didn't until sometime this year. I started carrying my camera everywhere. I started photographing wildlife, and, like, I have one of my photography friends, Aaron Mantis. He's an amazing photographer. He had given the advice, like, carry your camera everywhere because you never know what you're going to see. And he was so right. And so now I do. Like, I actually, I might have a little bit of an addiction problem because, like, if I don't have my camera on me, I get really anxious that I'm going to see something and then I'm not going to have my camera. Like, I just went for a hike earlier and I didn't bring my camera, and I was like, watch, we're going to see a coyote in the snow, and I'm not going to have my camera, and it's going to be so beautiful and I'm going to miss it. But yeah, so I almost everywhere I bring it. Yeah. It's shamefully true.
What is it about animals that made you want to become an animal photographer? I mean, I understand that you love animals and you love photography, but what specifically about animals that made you want to become an animal photographer?
Well, I think that's tough because I never really, it just sort of happened. You know what I mean? Like, I started doing it and, things kind of progressed and like, there was just moments where it clicked. I don't know if this is going to be the best explanation or answer to your question, but I'm thinking of this one moment or experience. It really clicked for me, and I just had this, it was like an aha moment where I was like, oh my God, this is like what I want to do. And like, I photographed at JP Farm Animal Sanctuary in Connecticut, and there was this one cow, Evan, and I took photos of him that day, and I took photos of all the other cows. But that night I went home and I edited this photo, and I had like this really crazy experience. To be honest, well, I think as I get older, I definitely am more emotional and cry more. But I know I like just cried a few minutes ago. But in general, I'm not like a super emotional person. But it was so weird. I like edited this photo. And then I always do this when I finish a photo. I like put it on, in full screen on my computer and back up, and I look at it. And I just had this thing come over me where I felt all these things at once. One of them was that I felt like sad for because he was a rescued dairy calf. And so I was overcome with emotion thinking about all of like the dairy calves, the millions of dairy calves every year that are slaughtered just because they're useless to the dairy industry. And I was thinking about that, and he was just so beautiful, and it made me like really sad. But at the same time, I also had this moment where I just like, I guess it sounds silly, I just can't even explain it, but it was this moment where I was like, my photography for me clicked. Like, I had been photographing for a really long time, all kinds of things, and I never really felt like I really clicked with like my style, my genre, like all of that. And I just had this moment where I felt like, oh my God, this is what I'm like. I know I kind of mentioned it earlier, but like, this is what I meant to do. Like, this is my work. It just like clicked that it's so hard to explain. I can't explain it. But it really clicked there. And it was almost like it chose me, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't trying to seek it out, like, and then it just like went on from there. Like, it just felt right, and it still feels right. And I love that, like, I can use it to like try to raise awareness. Because I try to share information and stuff with it, and like, it seems like people do learn from that, or like, I've had some people say like, I stopped eating this or that because seeing your photos of this one and that one. And so like, getting that feedback makes me, not the only thing, but it's one of the things that like makes me want to continue doing it. I'm like, okay, I can use my art to like try to raise awareness. So I wouldn't choose anything else,
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're making a difference, right?
Yeah, it feels good. It does. I mean, that's kind of a selfish way to think about it, I guess, but it does feel positive to feel like you're making an impact.
Switching gears right now, how and when did you transition to a plant-based diet?
I transitioned in 2015. Prior to that, I had tried several times to like go vegetarian or go vegan, and it just never really stuck. I didn't know as much information at the time. It was more of like, I just knew that animals were killed for food at that point, and I kept trying to I tried a couple times to eliminate it from my diet, and I just ended up being really unhealthy. Like, I tried to go vegan, and I didn't honestly know what to eat. So I just stopped eating like all animal products and was kind of going in it blind. But also was like trying to eat healthy, which at the time is just not a good combination because I just didn't know what in the world I was doing. So I became really unhealthy. And so I ended up going back to not being vegan. And a little bit of time passed, and I was I was doing some fitness photography at the time, and I photographed this girl who was competing in a fitness competition, and she was vegan, and she looked amazing. I mean, she was ripped, and she did it all vegan, and so that was like an eye opener for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so she like talked to me about it and everything, and that was when I realized, like, okay, you can do this and be healthy, because I think there's like so many people think and still think, even like in 2022, that like being vegan isn't healthy, and there's not enough information out there. So like that, I came from a space of thinking like, well, I tried to do it and I was like not healthy. So when I saw her and everything that she was doing, I was like, all right, this is possible. Like you can be vegan and be healthy and like be in shape and et cetera. So she had a fitness coach that was like training her for the competition and everything. So she told me about him. And so I was at a point in my life where I was like the most out of shape that I've ever been. Like I've always been at a healthy weight, but I was like not my healthiest,
Mm-hmm.
very out of shape. So I was like, okay, I want to get in shape and I want to go vegan. So this sounds perfect. So I ended up doing like this 12-week transformation with this coach, because I was like, well, if he did her plan and she's vegan, he can do mine. So he did. And that was like the start of me going vegan. And like, although I look back now and think, well, I wouldn't eat like that now, because it was like a lot of processed foods and stuff, which I mean, I'm not judging anyone. Like I eat processed foods way more than I care to admit, but but since then I definitely try to eat a lot more like whole foods and stuff. But that was the way I like got started on it, and like started learning how to eat. And then I just kind of like bounced off from there and like started learning more and more, and like learning how to like, I don't know, eat different meals and make meal plans for myself and stuff like that. So that's how I did it, which, yeah, I know it's not like, not everyone has that same experience, but that's how I was able to get myself going and like find out like how to basically how to eat balance on a vegan diet.
So you started by replacing, say, meat with processed foods like, we'll just say Impossible Burgers or something like that instead of a hamburger. Is that accurate?
Yeah, basically. Yep, that's how I started. Yep. And then after that, I started like learning more and trying to, because at the time I ended up, so I did that fitness transformation, and then that propelled me into getting really into fitness. And so I began like doing a lot of training, and I competed in a fitness competition and all that. And so at the time, all of my macros and stuff were being controlled by like a coach. So I was on like really high protein. So I was doing like protein shakes and, all of this stuff, like replacements essentially, which I don't really do anymore. But yeah, in the beginning, it was definitely like replacing one thing with another. And then I just learned from there.
What are some of the positive changes that you saw both physically and mentally?
Physically, I felt a lot better. I mean, physically, when I first transitioned to veganism, I was also training, so I actually got in the best shape of my life. So physically, it was huge. I mean, I was training at the same time, but on the vegan diet, I got in the best shape I've ever been in my life. And I actually competed in a WBFF fitness competition and took second place out of like 30-something girls, and won my pro card, which was huge.
Nice.
On a vegan diet. So that was definitely, physically, it was amazing. It was super positive change. And mentally, I just felt so much better. Like, and I know a lot of people feel this when they go vegan, like the guilt just kind of, you feel, I don't know, for me, I felt like relieved of some guilt. Like I still feel horribly about everything that I contributed to before I went vegan. But like now I literally feel like I slept better at night, because mentally I didn't have it hanging over my head, because I always loved animals. And when I started learning different things, I felt guilty. And so, after transitioning to a vegan diet, I felt so much better mentally, knowing that like I wasn't contributing to the cruelty to animals.
Do you think that because you were doing things that were aligned with your values, you basically slept better.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I do. Because for so long, I was doing something that was against what I really believed, like, and everyone says that they don't believe in animal abuse, but yet we pay for it on a daily basis. You pay, if you're not vegan, and it's not to criticize anyone at all. I don't mean it in that way, but if you're not vegan, you're literally paying someone to practice animal cruelty.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And we don't see it like that because people say, well, it's for food, but animal cruelty is like needlessly harming or killing an animal. And so if we don't need it, then it's animal cruelty, right? So because my actions were aligning more like with my morals and my beliefs, that it definitely helped me sleep better and just feel better all around.
Did you struggle with anything when you first went plant-based? Like, I know people struggle with cheese and other things. Did you struggle with anything?
This is probably the silliest thing, but I loved Caesar salad. And Caesar dressing typically has anchovies in it. So it's so silly because, it's something so simple. But yeah, I had a little bit of a hard time with that, but it was honestly very minute. That bothered me a little bit, and the rest was just, I didn't really care because, like, you start to associate more the cruelty with the product, and I feel like once you make the connection and really are conscious of that connection, it becomes easy because you're not seeing it anymore as like cheese. Like when I look at cheese, I see a poor baby cow that's now being slaughtered. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's not difficult. I feel like what was more difficult was, and what remains difficult at times, is just living in a world that is where the majority is not vegan, like that I feel like that's the biggest struggle. But in terms of like just being vegan in general, I don't know, it's just not that hard. And like, again, I don't mean that to criticize, and that was just my experience,
Now, you mentioned back in 2015 when you started to go vegan that you didn't have a lot of friends, or maybe a lot of friends that were vegan. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I had that one girl that I had met through photographing her fitness, and we stayed in contact a little bit, and she helped me out a little bit. But other than that, I didn't have any vegan friends at all.
Do you stay in contact with anybody still from the vegan social club or the vegan lady gang?
I do. Yeah. Since COVID came about, it's been tough. So I definitely haven't seen most of them in a long time. Some of them I definitely have. Like I said, not as often because of COVID, but yeah, I do still keep in touch with them. And honestly, going vegan and meeting all of these people, like pushing myself into meeting these people, changed everything about my life, really. I wouldn't be doing anything that I'm doing right now if it wasn't for that, and if it wasn't for meeting these people. Like one thing leads to another, you meet this person and then you meet that person, or you visit this sanctuary with that person, and all of these connections are made. And yeah, it was like hugely impacting.
Do you ever think about that? If you didn't join those groups, what your life would be like now?
Yeah. I often think about, wow, like if I didn't do this, my life would be so different. But I guess I haven't thought really in depth about like, what would my life look like,
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. I really don't. Geez, I'd probably.
When you start to draw that path, I just find that to be amazing, how your life has changed just by that one decision.
Yeah. No, you're right. When you lay it out there like that, it's pretty crazy. Like, I'm so grateful. And it could have been even one little thing, like, okay, I could have went vegan, and then, my friend Nate, who created the Connecticut Vegan Social Club, like, if he hadn't had that group, if he hadn't decided to do that, and I hadn't had that connection, do you know what I mean? That group to reach out to and start forming bonds with, then who knows what could have happened, you know what I mean? If we didn't have that volunteer day at Woodstock, who knows, you know what I mean? Like there's so many elements that just like fall into place and like put you on a certain path, and like any little thing can change that, and then who knows how much different your life would have been, who knows how much different the people around you, it affects the people around you too, you know?
Right.
I think about that often, how crazy it is that one little thing can affect you so much and can affect so many people as well.
Yeah, it's the ripple in the pond theory, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
What is one thing that's really exciting you right now in your life?
I'm really excited that spring is coming soon. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. Spring is coming soon, which means that there's going to be baby animals being born out in the wild, which is very exciting to me. Warmer weather in general. I plan to get out there on a kayak a lot this summer and photograph wildlife in that way. And then, yeah, just hoping to make some plans to visit some more sanctuaries coming up soon. And yeah, I'm excited for all of that. Like winter has been nice. It's a nice change, but I'm getting really excited for the changing season and what that's going to bring.
What is one habit or hack, maybe a tip that helps you stay on track with your plant-based diet?
Oh boy. So usually Saturday or Sunday is like groceries, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I do try to like plan out the week and get everything that I need. So that's definitely something that I do to stay on track. I'm not gonna lie, I've been slacking lately. Not on veganism, of course, but on eating healthy. So
You
for
become
like
a junk food
years,
vegan, have you?
it's terrible. I went from like doing fitness competition to like eating junk food like crazy, but but that's the way I try to stay on track, and that's the way that helps me the most is like just planning what I'm going to eat for the week. Like I think about, all right, what am I going to have for breakfast every day? What am I going to have for lunch every day? And then what are we going to do for dinner? You know, and then like snacks in between, fruit or whatever. So I try to like plan that out, and then I just buy that from the grocery store. And then I have everything that I need. Because I think the biggest problem with like any kind of like change in a diet, and I don't mean diet as in like losing weight, but diet in general, is like not being prepared. So like if you are dieting to lose weight, or if you're just trying to make a change in your diet that you're trying to stick to, if you're not like prepared ahead of time, that leaves you in a place where you're going to be like, okay, well, I need to eat and I don't have anything to eat right now, so I'm just going to get the easiest thing. Do you know what I mean? And that's where like you can make slip-ups or like it can become difficult. So if you like plan ahead of time, it's so much easier because then you have everything you need available to you right there.
Now, what cookbook or book have you gifted the most to somebody transitioning to a plant-based diet?
All right, I'm going to be completely honest. I really hate cooking. I don't do recipes. I am the laziest vegan when it comes to that. My friend Andrina and I joke around about this because she just went vegan this year and she's going strong on it. Congrats to her. And we laugh because people will ask us like advice, you know, and I'm like, you don't want advice from me. Like I will throw like rice and chickpeas and veggies on a plate and eat it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not, I don't cook. I'm not like, forget about recipes. It's usually just like the simplest thing. But on that note, I just remembered, I actually, I gave this book to that friend, Andrina, when she was transitioning, and it was, oh my God, I'm having a mind blank. But it was How Not to Die. Do you know the book?
Oh, yeah.
By Dr. Oh my
Greger?
God. Yes. So I would say it's not really a cookbook,
Right.
but it goes through like, it's very detailed on all kinds of like ailments and like different foods and like what certain like foods and ingredients have what benefits and all of that, and like how much you should eat per day. And so that's a good book. And it helped my friend going vegan so much. Like, she read it like front to back and really took it to heart. And I think it's definitely helped her a lot in her journey to go fully vegan. So yeah, that would be the book, actually.
Now, finally, can you give me one word to describe how you felt before you became vegan, and one word to describe how you feel now that you are vegan?
All right. So before I went vegan, I felt guilty. That would be the word. I always felt guilty about like what I was eating. And now, like after going vegan, I feel I would use the word lighter. It's like there's been like that guilt's been like lifted off my shoulders, you know? Like I kind of mentioned before, I still have like thoughts of like, oh, you know, I did contribute to this for so many years, but I feel lighter from the guilt knowing that, you know, I'm never going to pay for that stuff again.
So guilty and lighter.
Yeah.
I like
Those are
that.
the best words I could come up with. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. What's the best way for people to follow you or find you on Instagram, the web, and social media in general?
Well, first I want to say it's been so awesome talking to you, and thank you so much for having me on here. I really, really appreciate it, and it's been really awesome getting to talk to you. If people wanted to find me on social media, you can find me on Instagram at Britt with 2 T's .Bosse. And then I'm also on Facebook, not too much, but it's also Britt Bosse. Oh, and my website, www.brittbosse.com.
Thank you so much, Britt, for being on Plant Your Seed.
Thank you.
Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.